Ooh, October. What a great month. Welcome back to Teach a Man to Fish channel. Today's video is a real treat. We're doing surf and turf out of the hunting woods. Deer heart and lion's mane mushroom harvested during the same hunt out of the exact same woods we were in. Let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, we're here in deer camp. So the cooking that we're gonna be doing isn't real complex. This isn't my normal kitchen, but this is just as fun too. I'll be using the kitchen in the camper. We can also use a camp stove or campfire to do this cooking. So in the interest of time, I won't spend a lot of time talking about how to clean the heart. I'll put a link that you can go to and it'll talk more about how to do this process. I also wanted to take a little bit of time and explain this hunt and how we got this deer. I'd gone into the woods and found out that our neighbor had done a clear cut that I wasn't even aware of, so it was right next to the property, and it had totally changed how the deer were accessing. So I brought the climber in the next day. I found that trail that I thought the deer might be traveling, went up into the air, and lo and behold, I nailed it. Ended up having this little tiny 6-pointer come through, let him walk. Another doe came through. I got glimpses of a buck walking in on that doe, and the afternoon continued on. The wind started to swirl. Another little fellow wandered through, decided to let him walk past. Fortunately, I like to climb high because that wind was a bear throughout the day. I brought everything in with me to make this an all-day hunt. The sign that I was seeing, I knew they were in the area. It's the time of the year where you can do maybe some light grunting and rattling. I chose to not to do anything really aggressive. Lo and behold, that strategy worked. This big fella came into my view. This ended up being actually a pretty complicated track. I shot kind of high on the deer, and it was a double lung hit, absolutely a kill shot, but it took a while to find him, and at times only finding prints and where he was struggling to walk was the only thing until right at the very end he started to stumble real heavy. Large blood trail led me right to him. I was real glad I decided to get out of the tree while it was still light. In Virginia, you can take 2 deer in a day, but this would have been a really tough track if I had allowed it to get dark. The other thing that I like to do when I'm stripping that gut out of the deer, I like to bring little bags with me into the woods, because when I pull that heart out or that liver out of the deer, I can go ahead and throw it in a bag and then put it in my pack and carry it out with the rest of the deer. Don't leave that stuff in the woods. So awesome I was able to come back and find this. And looks a little old. I'm sure it'll still eat. So I'm going to call this video Surf and Turf in the Hunting Woods, because this lion's mane mushroom is really interesting. It has like a lobster crab flavor to it, and the texture especially is like scallops. So if you're out there in the woods and you find this, there are no lookalikes. It's not one of those mushrooms that eat this one and it tastes good, eat this one and it'll kill you. There's several different types of lion's mane, and all of them are okay to eat. Mushroom foragers call them foolproof mushrooms. Looks like somebody else is getting a snack too. Sorry, bud, I'm gonna steal your dinner. Him too. There's also studies out there that say that lion's mane mushroom is good for neurological disorders. It's good for the sheath that surrounds the nerves, helps rebuild them. I just know it tastes good when I eat it. So deer heart comes with its own little wrapper. When I'm in the field, I like to leave that pericardial sac, is what it is, that encases the heart. I leave that on so that I know when I get back into camp and I separate that sac off, inside there is sterile meat. So next time you're in the woods, save that heart. And then number 2, look for that lion's mane if you're in woody areas, hardwoods. It's not real discriminatory on which hardwoods it grows on. Oaks, beech, hickory. Dead portions, dead branches, dead logs on the ground. You'll see that. I bet you, if you think about it, you've seen this in the woods before. It's a foolproof mushroom. So you're going to want to wait until just before you put this into the pan to put the salt on. Otherwise it'll cure the meat and toughen it up some. And all you want to do is just add that salt and pepper flavor. The combination of butter and olive oil always works really well, because that olive oil keeps the butter from burning easily. It's got a much higher smoke point, and it just comes out perfect together. When you're cooking this in cast iron, don't overload that pan. This is 2 hearts, so we'll cook it in heart-sized batches so that you don't draw all that heat out of the pan at once. You want it to remain pretty hot, pretty high heat, which is what cast iron is great for. Spreading that heat around, absorbing it, maintaining it, and you get that fast cook on the outside. Just like all other deer meat, you definitely don't want to cook it too quick, and you want to let it finish off in the rest. That meat relaxes, the juices that were forced into the middle, the toughness, all just eases off as it sits in the rest. As a matter of fact, deer heart is one of the few parts of the deer that you can eat and get the right flavor out of it immediately after the kill. All of the rest of the meat, except for maybe the inner loins and the tongue. I've never tried the tongue, but some people do that. The liver is another one. All the rest of that deer, though, you have to let it age. If you try and eat fresh, truly fresh, in the first day or 2 deer meat, it's very tough, very stringy. You have to let that muscle relax as it ages. I won't eat the rest of the deer meat on my deer until it's aged for at least 4 days. And ideally, I get 8 days. There was a little bit of prep work for this cook. We threw together some shallots, had to prepare that mushroom, and made some green onions to throw on top. You may already know this, but it makes a difference how you prepare your garlic. As opposed to just dicing it, if you go through the process of crushing it, or maybe crushing it till it's flat and then dicing it a little bit, it releases sets of oils in the garlic that completely changes the flavor. The mushroom took a little bit of cleaning up, cut some of the dirty bits off, washed it a little bit, but you want to be careful about washing this. It's kind of like a sponge. You can even crush these and push some of the moisture out, and you'll get more butter and oil into that mushroom. So all we've got left in this pan is the oil, the butter, salt, and pepper from cooking the venison. And you do not want to overcook these mushrooms either. The goal is to have the temperature set very low until they get a goldenish color, and some of those beard tips might get a little crispy. If you burn this, it completely changes the flavor and it's not as appetizing as it is when it's just slowly cooked in that oil. So all of those bits and fried pieces are still residing in the bottom of that skillet, and that's the glaze on the skillet. So our next step is actually to deglaze. There you can see some of that crust that's on the bottom of the pan. And we're going to deglaze that with wine to lift off all that flavor. Wine has a pretty acidic flavor to it all on its own. So during this simmering process, you'll cut a lot of that out. And when you add in that garlic, that minced garlic or that crushed garlic, you'll cut some of that acidic flavor out. You can use cornstarch or flour as your thickener. I like to use ketchup because it adds a little bit of sweetness to it as well. I also put in a dollop of spicy mustard. It gives a little bit of a tangy flavor into the sauce.
As far as eating the deer heart, this is something you have to try. Too many people discard the heart like it's another piece of bad part of the deer that no one wants to eat. If you do a proper prep, and I'll do a link up here that'll show you how to really in-depth clean that deer heart. That's not what this video will be about. But in this cook, you should not be wasting that deer heart. It's another fantastic meal.
So this heart meat is so incredibly tender, and again, this is day one eating. You don't have to wait for this meat to age at all. It's one of the traditions that we have. Get a deer, go ahead and just eat that heart meat straight out of the deer.
Like butter.
So here it is, our forest surf and turf.
So YouTube says that this video is perfect for your viewing habits. This is my latest upload, and over here is a playlist that I think you might enjoy. I hope you liked it. If you did, please click like, subscribe, share, and come on back for more.